Caracas, a hidden gem for expats and internationals in Latin America. This is a video reaction, and today we discuss.
Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
Today I'm reacting to the possibility of Caracas becoming, and actually it is right now, a hidden gem for expats and internationals, especially Western internationals, in Latin America overall. And this particular reaction comes from the channel of Nomad Capitalist Research and Development. This particular channel that I found quite interesting, is particular content is elaborated by the collaborators of Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. These people, I have to give a shout out to these individuals. They are very smart and know what they're doing. And recently they have been speaking a lot about Venezuela. In this particular piece of content that I'm going to react, they discuss the possibility of living, having actually a great standard of living in Caracas as an international. So let's start. And I agree with this particular piece, with most of the statements of this particular gentleman that works for Nomad Capitalist. I agree with most of his takes. A couple of minor things that I disagree. And I'm going to start actually for the end, that he explains at the end on their particular content, is that the suggestions are for 6-7 figure entrepreneurs. So they are not catering towards, let's say, more of the middle class, mid budget. Of course, that's their particular take, and I cannot disagree with that. However, I will say that I don't discriminate, by the way. I know that Nomad Capitalists have the particular policy of just catering towards the 7-8 figure entrepreneurs. In Venezuela Insider, I don't discriminate regarding income, but actually most of my clients are 6-7 figure entrepreneurs. However, I have clients that they have something like a mid 5-figure entrepreneur team. And by the way, I don't do any audit or background check if that is true or not. I don't even ask their income for my clients. I don't know if in Nomad Capitalists they do some sort of like an audit or a background check if their clients are 7-8 figure entrepreneurs indeed. I don't do it, by the way. I never ask the income of my clients, and I'm not saying that it's bad for Nomad Capitalists, not disregarding, just saying that I don't do it. However, I will say the range of my clients is my, let's say, less financially successful clients are mid 5-figure entrepreneurs, but I also have 7 and 8 figure entrepreneur clients as well. Just giving this particular thought in case that according to your budget, Caracas is going to be affordable for you or not. Now, I will say this is my particular take regarding how much do you need on income in order to have a very fairly good standard of living in Caracas. That this particular video is for just Caracas and not the rest of the country. Well, I would say the starting point is actually 5 figures. If you want to be comfortable living in Caracas. Also, I have to say that the rest of the big important cities in Venezuela are around half a price compared to Caracas, regarding the income that you will need in order to cover a Western lifestyle. One of the things discussed on that particular piece of content is how the payment systems in Venezuela that are very, very, very particular compared to other parts in Latin America. If you frequent places like Mexico City or Bogota or Buenos Aires. And the difference will be that Venezuela is de facto dollarized. However, most of the small transactions are done on the local currency, the Venezuelan Bolivar. And regardless on which currency do you want to use, I will recommend just using US dollars. And there are a bunch of platforms that are used in the country, and actually this is something mentioned on that particular piece of content, using Zelle. Zelle is this particular platform, US banking platform, made for small transactions. If you have a US bank account regardless if you are a US citizen or not. Please, before you arrive to the country, try to activate this particular platform because it's going to make your life way easier regarding payments within Venezuela. Most of the businesses like restaurants, hotels, supermarkets have a Zelle account, so you can make very quickly the payments. It's going to be easier regarding exchanges rate and using cash or swiping a credit card. It's going to be way easier, so you have more control on your finances if you can activate that particular platform in Venezuela. Also, there is the possibility of using other hard currencies besides the USD, like euros, but I will not recommend that particular thing because the exchange rate that you're going to get for a euro or a British pound or a Swiss franc is going to be lower, way lower, and you're going to lose on the transaction. So I will just stick with USDs. Also, on this particular platform is mentioned using something like Venmo that I will not recommend in Venezuela, not at all. Don't count on Venmo or Cash App or these particular American platforms because the adoption here is pretty much scarce. So I wouldn't recommend relying on those third platforms in the United States. And also they mention cryptocurrency. Yes, the adoption for using this particular crypto exchange platform like Binance is actually the adoption is very good in the country. However, it's minimal compared to just using USDs. So if you're a crypto enthusiast, take that into account. The other thing that I have to mention regarding cryptocurrency is which cryptocurrencies are used in the country. And mostly are Bitcoin and stable coins like USDT. So try please not to use other altcoins, this particular buzzwords regarding altcoins like Dogecoin or Solana, something like that. Try please not to take into account those particular altcoins in order to do transactions in the country, not even Ethereum. So you either stick to USDTs, other stable currencies, or straight up Bitcoin. But the rest of the cryptocurrencies they don't have that much adoption within Venezuela. Now let's talk about first the rent. They mention a range of $1,000–$1,500 for a nice accommodation in Caracas. Until a certain degree, I will agree with that particular price range. However, it's not like you're going to get a mansion or something like that. You're going to get something decent on a decent location. You can get something way cheaper, by the way, in Caracas, but usually are not going to be on the nice areas. They're going to be on lower middle class areas that might not be as good. And also you have to take into account logistics, something very important if you're coming to Venezuela. And also the way that you make the transaction regarding the payment for a rental property here in Venezuela are different compared to the rest of the world, even the rest of Latin America. So you also have to take that into account. However, this is the good thing, especially from Caracas. Caracas has, of course, the most expensive real estate market in the country, the nice areas at least. But the cool thing is that if you can go above the $1,000–$1,500 range that they mention on Nomad Capitalist, you can go way far. Actually, for let's say the double and a little bit up, you can get a very, very nice upscale, very state-of-the-art, very vanguard property in Caracas, actually, in a nice area, but also a very nice property. I'm talking McMansions, penthouse, bachelor pads, you name it. So if you can go, let's say, double of that particular budget, you can get a very, very, very nice property. You can get exponentially better ROI regarding on the, of course, the price that you're paying for on the first place. So that's something that you might want to consider before coming to Venezuela, especially to Caracas. Now let's talk about, lifestyle and different discretionary expenses. In Caracas, you have a bunch of options regarding restaurants, and you have restaurants from all over the world. You have Chinese, you have Japanese, Peruvian, Mexican, of course, Venezuelan, steakhouses. You have a bunch of steakhouses, and so on. So you have endless options, unless they are very niche options like Thai food, something that's going to be hard to find in Venezuela. But actually, if you want it, Caracas is going to be the best place to find those particular niche preferences. And well, so most of the Italian also, We have a bunch of Italian, Mediterranean restaurants, that kind of thing. You're going to find a bunch of options, and the price range varies a lot. The good thing about Caracas, not only about food and restaurants and that kind of thing, but also for basically any discretionary spending that you might need, is that if you have a very particular niche consumer behavior, Caracas is by far the best place in order to satisfy such consumer behavior within Venezuela. The rest of the cities are going to be a little bit difficult in order, if you have a particular preference, by the way, just on that regard. The other thing, the cool thing about Caracas is it's expensive. I have to be fair. Expensive compared to the rest of Venezuela. However, at the same time, since you have a bunch of options and also a bunch of supply compared to the rest of the country, you also have a wide range of price options. For instance, let's say sushi, just for the sake of the conversation. You can find very, 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 very cheap sushi, and you can find the very upscale, with an old Japanese guy, like in a movie like Lost in Translation, something like that, a movie in Tokyo. I love Tokyo, by the way. Well, the point is that you want the cheap option, that you just want sushi for the sake of eating sushi. You're going to find very cheap sushi. I get options all the time on my social media. But at the same token, if you want a very upscale experience for Japanese food overall, you can also find that in Caracas as well. One of the cool things about living in Caracas. Activities in the kind of thing Caracas has you covered. You have basically, you can do every sport that you practice, even if it's a very niche sport like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or dirt bike competitions, or I don't know, parkour, something like that. I mean, if you do something very niche regarding sports and leisure activities, in Caracas, you are going to find options as well. Also, we have to talk about nightlife. Caracas is very, very cool regarding nightlife. It's going to be more expensive compared to the rest of the country. I have to warn you that. However, it's going to be cheaper than high-end places like Miami, Las Vegas, Dubai, places like that. VIP bottle service is going to be way cheaper, way cheaper compared to those places. But the ROI is going to be either equally good or better because, of course, you're going to have nice DJs, nice ambience, and nice, let's say, overall status and the vibe, and there, of course, the nightlife thing. I retired from that life, by the way, a few years ago. But still, it's still, I know it's cool, and you want to discuss that as well. Also, if you come with a family, and what happens they discuss very thoroughly, this particular issue is regarding the schooling, the education for your children if you come with children. In Venezuela, actually, but especially in Caracas, we have very high-end, upscale schools for children, international schools. Italians, we have a bunch of Italian schools. Also, Spaniards, we have, of course, a bunch of Spaniard descendants. American, European, French, international schools, that kind of thing. The tuition for those schools is very expensive. So it's, let's say, a couple $1,000 per month, something like that. I don't have children of my own, so I'm not an expert on that regard. However, since my clients and also my acquaintances, that they do have children, by the way, so I get a lot, the report, the information. And if, let's say, you want a decent middle-class school in Venezuela, it's not going to be as expensive. It's just a few $100, the tuition per month. Also, you have to pay like 6 years in advance, something like that. But it's not going to be draconian. Actually, some of the schools have English and also have like music, like let's say your son is a musician and they want to play the piano or they want to play a classical music instrument, something like that. They will have that option. And also regarding sport, let's say you have a young son that is an athlete, they have the possibility of basketball, track and field, things like that. So there are a bunch of options. So regarding education, you are going to be covered in Venezuela. And the last thing that actually they mentioned on this particular video from Nomad Capitalist is, the upscale, that kind of thing for 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs regarding country clubs and things like that. Well, yes, in Caracas, we have options of country clubs and that kind of thing, playing golf and horse and that kind of thing. I know a bunch of people love horses and, and riding horses and that kind of thing. I've never been a horse guy, by the way, but I know that some people are. I know a couple of people here in the country. that know about a thing or two about that. And actually, Venezuela has a decent, let's say, manpower, human capital regarding horse breeding. Actually, Venezuelans, a handful of Venezuelans are very enthusiastic regarding this particular world. And actually, last year, the Kentucky Derby was won with a Venezuelan won that particular competition. And Venezuela has a tradition regarding horse racing and horse breeding and that kind of thing, if that's your thing. And if you're just a country club guy that just wants to chill by the pool, something like that, you're going to have a bunch of options as well. And also, depending on your nationality or your culture, there are very particular niche clubs regarding nationality. For instance, we have a bunch of Italian clubs, Middle Eastern clubs, also Spaniard clubs. And actually, I remember years ago, we had very particular niche places in Spain, clubs from Galicia, clubs from the Basque country, Catalonia country, things like that. So even that, we had it in Venezuela and actually outside of Caracas as well. Portuguese also, we have Portuguese clubs, something like that. And so depending on your particular preference and lifestyle, you can actually find a club, a niche, especially in Caracas, for your particular culture, your particular hobby, or your particular interest overall. Lastly, let's discuss something regarding the cost of living. Caracas is not going to be cheap. So if you're looking for a bargain, if you are very stingy with your budget and that kind of thing, then Caracas is not going to be for you. I'm going to give you the disclaimer right away. However, the cool thing about Caracas is that if you have a very substantial budget for your standards of living and you have a very upscale standard of living, actually Caracas is going to be cheaper regarding upscale cost of living compared to many places all over the world. So you can get cents on the dollar. Caracas is expensive. If you are a lower middle class, Caracas is going to seem very expensive, especially even for Latin American standards. However, if you have a high middle class, upscale budget and standard of living overall, Caracas is going to be cents on the dollar on what you can get for your budget compared to places like Miami, Dubai, Las Vegas, also other nice places in Latin America like Tulum, like Mexico City right now. Also, Buenos Aires is getting expensive. Also, the big cities in Brazil. And Colombia, I'll say Colombia is kind of on the ballpark with, let's say, Bogota. The cool thing about Caracas is regarding your budget, you're going to find a lot of options regarding on your interest and your particular preference and that kind of thing. So it's very adaptable depending on your particular preference overall.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.